Hey, Namaste. I'm Kay. This is Ecstatic Self. Today I want to talk a little bit about labels and how we describe ourselves, and specifically labels around our orientation. Now, a lot of us will spend a large chunk of our life identifying with just one label, being straight, gay, bi, whatever. But I tend to think that for probably almost everybody, these labels are not expressive enough to hold the entirety of our experience. So just a fun fact, a poll released this year by YouGov found that of millennials and Generation Z, the people that they polled, American millennials and Generation Z, 48% of them, 48% identify as being something other than heterosexual, or entirely heterosexual. Nearly half. And of course, we look at the younger people, probably a little bit less inhibited, grown up in a culture that has been much more affirming of different sexual experiences. And while you could definitely say that some of these people are still figuring out their identities, figuring out who they are, I think we can also say there's a fair number of other people who are not necessarily comfortable expressing non-traditional identity, non-traditional attraction, gender expression, gender identity, all of that good stuff. And so one of the things I found in my own life that as I've explored me internally and who I am and what I want out of life and who I'm attracted to, the labels that feel like they encompass me and my experiences have shifted and changed. So, for example, what I mean by that, in my early 20s, I identified pretty much as asexual. I was still a virgin, really had never even made out with anybody except for on stage or on screen. And while I knew I was attracted to images on computers or magazines, it wasn't the case in real life. I didn't see people on the street and be like, oh my God, I want to have sex with them. And I had asked out 3 girls in college, and all 3 said no. One of them laughed in my face when I asked, and then walked away, still laughing with her friend. Not bitter. I'm not bitter at all. And I felt pretty comfortable in that identity. And then something happened where I had a friend who was a pickup artist and decided to take me under his wing and be like, dude, we're gonna get you laid, you need to try it. And I ended up trying to seduce my roommate at the ashram, which didn't go so well. And then she ended up creating an online dating profile for me and listed me as bisexual and set me up with some dates. And so that first year, I went on like 3 or 4 first dates a week. Like I went on a lot of first dates, and most of them were just coffee and talking and walking, and some of them weren't, but a lot of them were just kind of like getting to know people. And I started to identify as bisexual and saying, okay, well, I'm kind of turned on by men and women, more so men, but I was very confused. And after a year of dating, I kind of like wrote down all of my sexual longings and imaginings and experiences thus far in life and realized, they're mostly men, and therefore I'm going to come out as gay. And I felt pretty darn comfortable in that expression of being gay for a while, until like a couple of years ago, I was traveling with a dear friend of mine abroad and realized that I had really intense sexual attraction with her, and that's something we had talked about exploring. And then since then, it's kind of like made me realize that there were some feelings and tendencies that I had kind of shoved down because I was like, oh, I'm gay. I don't need to ever acknowledge those feelings I occasionally have for non-masculine bodies. And nowadays, I've kind of been enjoying the term omnisexual, which means I can be attracted to different people for different reasons, or different genders for different reasons, or different expressions for different reasons. And like I've definitely met some gender non-conforming people, or some trans people, or some intersex people who I'm like, oh my God, you're so attractive, you're so beautiful. That like my understanding of like being attracted only to cisgendered men no longer feels correct. And so my definition of myself has continued to evolve and change, and it will probably continue to evolve and change. And I will say, I feel like this is actually a really common experience, because I can't tell you how many people I've met in my life who are like, well, I identify as blank, but you or someone else made me think I could also be blank. Like the stereotypical one is like the straight dude who's like, dude, can I give you a blowjob? And it's like, okay, well, you may identify as straight, but you clearly have longings that fit outside those traditional boundaries. And I think as we evolve as human beings and we get more comfortable with ourselves and we dig deeper inside, we start to uncover things we maybe didn't know were there before. I kind of think of identity as being like an onion. You peel away a layer and you're like, oh, this is who I am. And then you peel away that layer and you're like, oh, this is who I am. And then there's another layer, and it keeps changing. So if you identify it with that at all, if you ever feel like who you are continues to shift and change, and your identity continues to shift and change, and maybe you aren't the person you always thought you were, I'm gonna say that's normal. It's a pretty healthy and normal experience that many of us go through. You're definitely not alone. If you ever need someone to help guide you through those experiences, there's a lot of great resources out there and a lot of wonderful people. So always feel like you're getting the support you need. Reach out to people to see how they can help and resources they have. I think at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is being comfortable in our own skin, knowing that where we are and who we are is beautiful, and that all expressions of selfhood are perfect and valid, and there's nothing you have to be. Even if society or your family or your subconscious tells you different, the only thing you have to be is yourself. So love that and appreciate it. Okay, this is Ecstatic Self. Namaste.